Hi everyone and welcome back to another Digital Design Lab video. Today we're going to be talking about using type in Illustrator and some of the basics of typography. Let's get straight into it. As a little bit of a review, I'm going to be starting a new file and creating it using the settings of our postcards. If you've forgotten the settings already, here they are on the screen. Go ahead and pause the video if you need more time to see that. And then next, I'm just going to set up the guides the way we did last time, creating a guideline at the 4.25 line. You don't necessarily need these dimensions for this demo. I'm just doing this so you can see it again and remember that this is how you're going to have to set up your document for your postcards. So everything we talk about today is related to type and typography. So we're mostly going to be working with the type tool today, which is this little T icon over here, or T for the shortcut. There are two different ways that you can create type with the type tool. The first one, you simply click and you can start typing. When you finish typing your statement and you want to click out of the type tool, all you have to do is hit escape on your keyboard or click the direct selection tool or any other tool. The second way of using the type tool is to click and drag to create a text box. Just like the rectangular tool, you can create a custom box of any size or shape. This text box will autofill with some Greeking or lorem ipsum text, but you can just replace that with whatever text you want to write. So I'm going to go ahead and try and fill up this entire box so you can just see the limitations of a text box. But basically, if you create a text box, the text can only go inside of the box. It can't go outside of the borders. The way that we created text the first time, on the other hand, the text will continue in a straight line unless you hit enter and break the line. So I'm just going to move my artboard over a little bit, and I'm just scrolling over because of the way that everything is set up. But basically, like what we said in the first demo, you can find more helpful options at the top panel, including typefaces, which is what we're going to look through now. Yours should look very different from mine. I've downloaded a bunch of typefaces over the years, but basically you can see previews of what every single typeface will look like, as well as being able to scroll through them and actually see it on your document. You can also filter your different typefaces here. I don't really use a filtering system because I'm unorganized, but just choose any typeface. It doesn't really matter what you choose. Next to where you choose your typefaces, it will be where you choose your weights. So every different typeface has different amounts of weights, and you can buy different weights for different typefaces. And next to that will be where you adjust your point size, which is basically just the size of your type. You can choose any of these preset sizes, or you can always go in and type in a customized size. The next thing is paragraph alignment, so I'm going to select our text box, and there are different alignments that you can choose up here, like center align, left and right. You can also click on the paragraph to get more options for justified center or justified left, those kinds of things, as well as a few other options that we will talk more in depth about later. So with the text box option of the text tool, there's actually some cool things you can do with it. So you can always resize the size of the text box even if there's text in it. You may notice that if you make the box too small, however, you will get this little red plus sign that shows that you have overset text. So there's a few different things you can do when you have overset text. The first one being quite obviously you can make your text box bigger. If that's not an option, you can always click the little red plus and you will be able to create a second text box that connects the text from the first one to the second. These text boxes, just like normal text boxes, can be adjusted, and the overset text will always overflow into the second box. So this little marker here actually is just a glitch on my computer, and I have to do this to get rid of it, but there no longer is any overset text, so just take no heed to it. I'm going to quickly undo so we're back to one text box so we can discuss the major difference between our first and second ways of creating text. So with our text box, when we resize the box, as you've seen before, the actual size of the text does not change. On the other hand, the other way that we created text, or the first way that we created text, when you adjust the actual size or transform the text, it changes the point size of the text. So as I'm adjusting this text, you might notice that I'm actually holding down Shift and resizing the text so then it stays with the same proportions. You can, however, stretch the text like this vertically or horizontally. However, this is sometimes considered bad form in graphic design. Everybody has a different opinion on it. I am not here to spread my agenda. However, I will let you know that because these typefaces are designed with a very specific proportion by a very careful type designer. There is a time and place for stretching type, and it's good to know that time and place before you just do it recklessly. So when you hold down the type tool icon, you'll see that there are a few different options for the type tool. I'll show you the ones that I think are quite helpful, but we're not going to go through all of them. The one that I find the most helpful is type on a path. So what we're going to do is use the pen tool and just draw a random path. It actually doesn't matter if it's filled or just a stroke, but I'm just going to switch to a stroke so it's easier to see. When you have your path drawn, you can select the type on a path tool and then click anywhere on the path to start typing. When you use the type on a path tool, the actual path will disappear. So if you want it to actually be sitting on a line or something, you will have to create an additional path. So you might notice that this also gives you an overset text warning with that little plus in the square. So I'm just going to make my type size a little bit smaller so you can see it. So again, even though we got rid of the overset text, my Illustrator glitched and I'm just going to get rid of that. Moving on, so these three lines that you see along the text at the beginning, middle, and the end are actually guidelines of where your text on the path will be. So using our direct selection tool, we can actually pull on these different lines to move the text to different parts of the path. So here I just flipped it over to the other side of the path, but you can also move it up and down the path. So the range of motion on this right now is really short, so I'm just going to move the ending line closer to the text so there's more range of motion for where the actual text can go. This path is quite bendy, so the space between each of the letters changes, so I actually have to change where that ending guide is to allow all the letters to be seen again. But basically you can adjust all these things so it sits exactly where you want it on the path. The text on these paths remains editable also, so you can always hit T and add more letters or more words if you need to. So just like our normal type tool type path, you can select the entire type on a path, move it around, and resize it. And since type is an object in Illustrator, you can select any section of type and change the color of it. So here I'm just going to select all of the type that we've created so far, and I'm just going to choose like this random blue and make all of it blue. You can also switch to a stroke, so I just hit Shift X for stroke and make a stroke outline on all of your text. Of course, you can have both a stroke and a fill on the text as well. I'm just going to make it a thinner stroke, which is probably what you would use if you were using an outlined text. Okay, so moving on, I'm just going to delete everything that we have so far. Feel free to just move it off to the side if you want to save it. The next type tool that we're going to be using is the vertical type tool. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. It makes type in a vertical line instead of a horizontal line. In the same way as the normal type tool, you can both click for a type on a path or drag out a text box and create a text box. For Western languages like English, because of the way that we normally read left to right, sometimes legibility becomes really difficult with vertical type. So just be aware if you want your text to be readable, sometimes vertical text is not the best idea. So next what we're going to do is pull out our ellipse tool and just draw a random ellipse. Then selecting our area type tool, which is one of the type tool options, we can then click on the path or the stroke of the object and it'll allow us to type within the shape. I'm just going to make this type size a little bit smaller since you won't get a really good idea if it's too big. And then I'm just going to fill it with some random typing. So as I type, you can probably see that the text actually fits the ellipse. So the area type tool basically lets you create any type of shape, like using the pen tool and creating something really weird, and then fill it up with text. Instead of just using the rectangular text box that you get with the regular type tool, this way you can do really customized text boxes. So that's the basics of the type tool. In the next part of this lesson, we will be talking about the classifications of type and talk more about typefaces and fonts. Hop on over to the next video and I'll see you guys over there.